Saqib, welcome. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What are agencies across government doing, and what should they be doing to really mitigate risks and implement risk management frameworks as best as they possibly can?
Yeah, so I think, right now with the rise of AI, as we've seen, I think this is probably one of the, in my lifetime, technologies that's evolving every day. So I feel like there's a lot of changes that are happening. Like I might tell you about a model today. I think by the time we leave this conference, there'll be another model that comes out. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on just figuring out what technologies we can use to also do the countermeasures, right? So for example, we see a lot of deepfakes happening nowadays. So one of the things that we're doing is making models that can do detection. So can the government and the military implement something like technologies that could also detect deepfakes in the wild? We saw that happen earlier this year with President Biden's, robocall in New Hampshire. So, technologies that could do in real time so that information is not shared with the public. And I think a lot of collaboration between the private sector and the public, because I think right now we're at a stage where these technologies are pretty new and evolving. And the best way to, stay ahead of it is just commingle and work together. And training is another big one. I think that we just need to, do a lot of training to a lot of employees to make sure that everybody is aligned with what's happening in this space. I think those are the things that, we could be looking at, that the government and the military could be looking at to make sure that we're ahead of those things. Yeah.
Given how new these technologies are and how quickly they're evolving, do traditional risk management frameworks and techniques still apply, or are we having to invent new ways kind of to control these and think about them to fit the technologies as they evolve?
I think looking at from the generative AI aspect, right? Because majority of the things I think AI is around generative AI at the moment. I think there's going to be new things that we have to come up with, right? So like, for example, if you take voice as an example, you already had voice biometrics, but now if I wanted and I was nefarious, I could just literally clone your voice right now, make a call to Chase Bank or Bank of America, pretend to be you, and I could get bypassed because the voice biometrics current solution won't be able to detect that it's an AI voice, right? Because it's like, oh, it sounds like this person, so let's buy through. So I think it will be, a combination of coming up mostly with new things and then, working with the things that we have right now and augmenting them with some of the new features.
How does all of that inform the way that government leaders should think about maybe more broadly the whole risk landscape, not just individual techniques to mitigate individual risks, but more broadly, maybe even on a philosophical level?
Yeah, I think it's probably taking a step back and just like looking at the technology is really what's happening from that angle, right? So I think, again, generative AI is like one of those technologies where I was part of the crypto world, blockchain world before as well, sure that took off, but I think Gen AI, it's just one of those things that's really taken off. So I think it's like having these conversations with, other folks that are not technical, but like are researchers also, and then like making sure that is AGI going to come and, when is that going to happen, and making sure that we have safeguards in place, when the time comes for that. But yeah.
What are the safeguards that people should at least be thinking about, whether they're putting them in place or not right now?
Yeah, so I think if you were to just look at maybe, for generative AI, it's like, what can we do for detection, right? Maybe whether it's text-based, whether it's image, video, audio, I think those are things we need to be thinking about. I think from, other side, security, obviously there's a lot of companies here that, have AI in their names and are doing some other, high-level AI stuff for security. So I think, it's just looking at what the risks are from like a technology standpoint, because I think each of those things would have to be looked at a granular level, and then from there think about like what technologies we need to invent if needed to counter those AI measures.
From a protections point of view, some agencies are limiting their testing and pilot programs and so on to using data that's proprietary to their agencies. Is that an effective protection? And does that actually give them the visibility that they should have into more broadly how the AI tools might work on larger data sets or publicly available data sets?
Yeah, so I think it's funny you mentioned, I think data is pretty hot topic right now, right? Especially also when it comes to training the models from scratch. I think the foundation models, right? There's a lot of conversation on whether it's fair use or not, or it should be restricted to. So I think from that end, sometimes there is limitation that we'll see, like if we're just, looking at the data, using the data set that they have, because you will need a lot of data set to build these models from that end. But I think high level, they were still in the early stage of like what happens from here in terms of the data set. But I think we'll probably start to see more along the lines of like, deployment happening on premise, offline. So agencies are comfortable at least with their data not leaving their premises from that end.
What do you see as the things that agencies should anticipate or maybe be prepared for in this space in a year, 2 years, or is it even possible to think about it given how fast these things are evolving?
I think it's the latter, right? I mean, like, we're churning out models and we're like a smaller startup with less, not as scale as the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world that have a lot more compute. And, even we're moving a lot at a quicker space in terms of like building out models every, month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I think, from there, that's why I feel like there's a lot of conversation around like having like chief AI officers at these agencies that sole job is to stay on top of all these technologies and making sure that, they are in line with what's happening. And I think, OpenAI and Anthropic like signed, some kind of agreement with some agency to be like, all right, we'll share our, models with you before we release them to the public so you have an idea on where they are from a security standpoint. So I think it's going to be more of the question about proactive, staying on top of it and making sure that, everybody's on the same page and not, because preparing for 1 year, 5 year down the road, I feel like might be a little far-fetched, especially at this space, at this stage of the technology.
Less than a minute left. Are there any unintended consequences that agencies should think about?
I think it's, the technologies more or less could be used for the wrong and the bad as well, right? So I think it's like, just thinking about like making sure that the tools that are being built out there are being used for the purpose that they're being built for, because people will find a way to use them for the wrong reasons as well. So I think safeguarding those and making sure that there's, it's going to be like I don't want to say a cat and mouse game, but, for I think near term it might be until like we have a good foundation of what people are really utilizing these tools for.
Saqib, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate it.